here, then say it's love.
Hi everyone, it's the big scary guy here. So, we're gonna have to talk. The video that I had intended to release last week kind of was overshadowed by some national events that just had me so angry I couldn't. I was too frustrated to talk about the car without stating an opinion about what was going on. So, I'm going to avoid doing that. I'm not going to bring that opinion to this channel. Too bad. Deal with it. You don't get to hear my opinion. Most of you are probably like, "Yay!" The title of this video is "Where is the Impreza?" And that is a very good question. The Impreza is back at my apartment. It is no longer at the garage. So while that on one hand is a very cool thing, I'm very excited about that. The car is entirely put back together. The new clutch is installed. Everything is bolted down, tightened up, and good to go. Or is it? So I don't know if it is directly related to the clutch exploding, and that is exactly what it did. The clutch literally exploded. And because of that, I'm not entirely sure what is going on with the engine right now. I am getting a home position fault for the engine, or not a home position, a engine position, a trigger count error with the engine. When I monitor the engine, anytime it jumps over about 2500 RPM, the crank sensor starts missing teeth. Now, this last week, I've known about this issue. I knew about this issue when I got the car started last weekend, and I immediately ordered a crank sensor. The crank sensor has been a continuous issue for this car since the EZ30 project began. And initially I thought, okay, the sensor that came in the engine has been sitting around for I don't know how long. My initial estimates about how many miles were on the engine being somewhere in the neighborhood of 20,000 or less. That pretty much makes it, and that engine came from a 2005 vehicle. So I got that engine in 2018, and that means that the engine was sitting and doing nothing, who knows where, in who knows what kind of conditions, for 2005, 2 years for 20,000 miles, and you're at 12 years, 11 years. The engine was just sitting around doing nothing for possibly up to 11 years. So I went, factory crank sensor might just be bad. Okay, throw it out, buy a new one. Did I buy a Beck Arnley crank sensor like I should have? No. Why? Because I'm a cheap bastard. And I thought that I could get away with it because I have gotten away with it in just about every other car project that I have worked on before this. In most cases, it's been pretty easy to find any part that was a matching part and install it in the vehicle, and it would run. So I bought a cheap crank position sensor, and the car did run for a significant period of time. I got about 4 months in to the car, and I started to have other issues. I started to have a cam position fault issue. So guess what? Ordered some cam position sensors too. Did I order expensive ones? The Beck Arnley ones that I should have ordered? Nope. No, I did not. So yeah, that happened. I got 2 new cam position sensors. I was buying so many things at that time because there were a lot of things that needed to be replaced. It was not a I don't really want to spend the money 100%. It was I have a history of buying parts that are not the top of the line, top shelf parts, and they work just fine. So we're going to try that again. We're going to buy the not so premium, top of the line parts, and we're going to stick them in here because I'm not at the point where I'm really pushing power. This should be fine. It should be completely safe, and there shouldn't be any issues. That was not the case. Fast forward another couple of months, and I start having trigger count error faults again, which is the crank angle sensor or crank position sensor. So I went out, I bought a Beck Arnley crank position sensor. I got the sensor in, I installed it, and that seemed to not do a damn thing. That had me really frustrated until I realized that I had the Haltech looking on the wrong side of the tooth. So the Haltech allows you to choose which side of the tooth on the sprocket that the crank position sensor reads, and I had it reading the leading edge or the rising edge, or I had it reading the falling edge. Whichever one that I had the program reading, it was the wrong side of the tooth. So it was chugging really hard and not really making anything work. And for some reason, the crappy sensor that I had installed before the Beck Arnley sensor, that was what made the car run better. So I had to tell the Haltech to start reading on the correct side of the tooth again, and the crank position sensor was fine. I never had to deal with it again. Cam position sensors, on the other hand, fast forward another couple of months, they went out again too. So they got replaced as well. Brand new Beck Arnley sensors came in, and those got replaced as well. So that was fine. It took care of the car until the clutch blew up. So when the clutch blew up, for some reason, when the clutch blew up, I wasn't able to get the car restarted. I didn't even really try that hard because of the noise that I heard. While I didn't know exactly what the noise was, I wasn't going to play around and potentially cause harm to something that was vitally important. So rather than try to force rotate the engine and get the car to start, I only tried the key one time. When the key didn't start the engine, I let it go. I just said, okay, we're going to get it on a tow truck, we're going to get it to the garage, and we'll start tearing it apart then. And that kind of was the end of that thought at the time. I immediately went ahead and purchased another vehicle. And the plan was always to buy an Outback. I wanted an 08 or an 09, specifically those 2 years. I did not want the 2010 because it had a different face. And as cool as new faces and stuff are, I really wanted the 09 or 08 face, and that's what I got. So I'm happy for that. I'm glad that I got that kind of another car. The engine is not the correct engine. It needs some work. There are going to be videos for that car as well. I already have the new tie rod ends in. They showed up. Geez, I forgot that I even ordered them, and I got a notification that another package had been delivered, and I called the apartment complex office to ask them if my package had showed up, and they said absolutely. And I walked out the front door of my apartment, and the package that I got a notification that was delivered was sitting right in front of my door, which was not supposed to be there, because people steal packages. They're not supposed to be leaving any packages at the door. They're supposed to leave them at the office, but they didn't do that. So that particular package, I reached down, threw it on the table, and I went down to the office to figure out what else I got. And come to find out, it was the tie rod ends that I had ordered and that I had completely forgotten about. So those are in. Those need to be replaced. I was taking a corner in the Outback for me, it was a comfortable speed. The car was not very happy about it. I felt a lot of chattering, and essentially that chattering was specific to the wheel not maintaining its alignment through the turn. And that's a tie rod end issue. I can't really describe the sensation. It's one of those things while you're driving the car and you are holding it through a corner. When you experience that chattering, you will understand what that chattering means. And I could have you hold the wheel and tell you to go through a corner in the car at a specific speed, and when it started making that chattering, I could say see, 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 but trying to describe that chattering using words alone without having a video to show the wheel, because I don't do external cams on my car, because honestly I'm scared I'm going to lose a camera. Uh, so I don't do exterior cameras on the car, so I can't exactly go around a corner and try to film the wheel doing what I know that it is doing. So because of that, I just went ahead and ordered tie rod ends for both sides. It's $20. The car needs an alignment, or the Outback needs an alignment anyways, so I wasn't too concerned about it. I'm going to wait on the alignment and probably on the tie rod ends until I get the new suspension. I'm going to be ordering new suspension for the Outback as well, but there's so much stuff going on right now that I don't know when anything is exactly going to be falling. So I am doing some stuff for me that has nothing to do with the channel or the cars or anything, and it is going to be somewhat expensive for the next couple of months. So that is a detractor from the cars for a little bit. It shouldn't cause too many issues. And I'm hoping that at least some of that money will end up coming back. It's not exactly an investment, but it is an investment at the same time. So I'm hoping some of that money comes back, and when it does come back, there will be a large chunk that does come back all at once, and that would be very nice. It should be reinvested into furthering on the issue. This is not a pyramid scheme, I promise. I'm doing some self-improvement stuff, and that's just all I'm going to say about that. On the other side of things, my tax returns for 2017, 2018, and 2019 have not been processed yet. 2017 and 18 were done via paper this year, and the IRS has not even grab them yet. They actually haven't looked at them. According to my account on the IRS website, when I go to look at my 2017 and 2018 tax returns, all I get is the little asterisk that says you haven't filed yet. So that is one thing that's slightly annoying. I'm going to probably have to file 2019 digitally and just say that I didn't file for 2018 and hope that that doesn't cause an audit. But I am receiving a return for all 3 years, so when those checks come in I'll be able to reassign some finances going in different places and take care of some other things. I'm going to do a product placement thing right now, but it's not the product placement that you're kind of thinking. So if you are considering using Lendmark Financial Services, do not do it. I made the mistake, and yes, I did get that name correct. It is Lendmark Financial Services. I was not in the position that I wanted to be to buy that Outback. It was not something that I was quite ready to do at that moment. It was in the works, but it wasn't planned at that time. So, yeah, sorry about that again. My phone likes to talk for some reason. So, that not being the plan at that time, I did have to go and get a loan. Lendmark Financial Services, not a company I would ever recommend that anybody use. They kind of did some shady, almost predatory lending practices that I'm really not comfortable with. I come from a family that has worked in the mortgage industry for quite some time. I've had my own home loan. I am very used to how loans should be handled and the whole process. I was a little cocky. I went in and I didn't read through my paperwork as clearly as I should have, but if I had, I would have been in there for hours reading the paperwork, because any loan that you get comes with a mini mountain worth of paperwork. So, assuming that I knew everything that I needed to know going into the loan, I signed on the dotted lines, and got my car loan, got the car, drove back home. Um, when I went to start paying on that loan and aggressively paying on that loan, I wanted to pay down the principal balance so that I wouldn't be stuck with the interest rate. And that's when I found out that Financial Services decided that they were going to, and I'm going to fail at this word, amortize the entire loan. I actually didn't fail at that load. Great, great, awesome. So that the amortization process in a loan is the how much you will end up paying through the entire length of the loan, with interest and other fees stacked into the loan. When you go and buy your house, they actually specifically walk you through the amortization, and they show you page by page, month by month, year by year, exactly how much you will pay and how much each of your monthly payments decreases the value or the amount that you will have to pay over a specified period of time. Now, on a mortgage, that amortization changes anytime you make an additional payment to the principal balance only. And basically what you're doing is you're cheating the interest out on that. So if you were to make one extra mortgage payment a year applied specifically to the principal balance only, you would pay off a 30-year mortgage in about 11 months, plus or minus. If you made additional payments, that would drastically change. But what you're really doing is cutting down on the massive amount of money that the small interest rate applied over a very valuable property is accruing. So paying that extra towards the principal balance reduces the amount that the interest has to compound off of, and doing that reduces the amount of interest that you pay overall. Now, I was aware of what the overall, how much the interest would compound to and the total value of the loan would equal if I allowed the loan for this vehicle to carry out for its full 6 years. The monthly payment was minuscule. I didn't ask for a change on that. That was just what was assigned, and I said, it's not going to matter because I'm going to pay it off stupidly quick anyways. Well, now we get to the crux of the issue where I don't like Landmark Financial Services at all. So the loan being 100% amortized off the rip means that there's no way to pay down the principal balance and avoid the interest or reduce the amount of interest that you have to pay. So the entire amortized value of the loan, if I were to try and pay off the loan tomorrow, I would not pay the balance of the loan plus the 2 or 3 months worth of interest. I would pay the balance of the loan and all 72 months of interest. So it basically doubled the value of the vehicle. I had a large or a high interest rate. Again, it was not something that I was super concerned about. I needed to buy the car, and Lenmark was the one that did say yes. I made some mistakes filling out an application for another loan provider, and because of that mistake, my income looked like it was about a quarter of what it actually was. So no surprise that got that didn't get denied, or that got denied. Basically, I never heard anything about it, so I assumed that it got denied. I have no idea. Maybe it didn't. But regardless, I was on a time crunch. Lenmark had said yes, and I went and jumped on the deal. This is my fault, I have to say that. So that's the end of my product placement. That was quite a bit longer than I expected it to be, but at least it's not World of War Tanks or World of Warships or one of those things. No. So anyways, back to the car. The Impreza is not running correctly right now. I'm not entirely sure what the issue is, except that I kind of have to, at this point, lean that there is, or probably is, a wiring issue. And because of that, I'm going to have to tear into the wiring again, which I'm not super excited about. I am going to be making some posts on the Howtech forums just to verify that my conjecture is correct, but I'm like 99% sure that at this point there must be an issue with my wiring which will mean that it is entirely my fault. And so that's where I'm going to kind of have to go from here. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to redo the wiring from the ECU to the engine connector that I currently use, or if I'm going to go directly from the ECU to the crank position sensor and probably the cam position sensors as well. Right now, I currently have it set up for the quick disconnect that is the Subaru main engine harness. With both sides of that connector being available when I got the engine, I figured that was the smart move to make. Then it's a couple of hoses and a few miscellaneous wires, and the engine just pops right out of the engine bay. These Lego cars really do not take a whole lot of time to get the engines out of the car, and with as expedient as it is, I decided that I was going to use that main connector. Because Subaru uses it and they don't have an issue with their cars normally based on the wiring. So I thought, meh, it'll work out. Well, meh, it didn't work out. So now I'm probably going to have to go through that wiring issue. Again, I'm going to wait on the results from the Haltech forums, but I'm pretty sure that my conjecture is probably correct and that it is my fault, my wiring, and I'll have to fix that. No big deal. It's possible to do. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Because, well, yeah, those wires are buried, and I further buried them after I got the car somewhat settled, and now I'm going to have to unbury everything, and I'm not entirely sure how much of a pain in the butt this part of the project is going to be. However, there are some other wiring things that I can look into at this time. I'm only missing one more wire to get the AC working in the car, so that's kind of an important issue that I wanted to get fixed, especially since it's almost 100 degrees here right now in where I'm living. So that'll be kind of an important thing for me to be able to take care of as well. So at this time, the car is not running right. It does run, and as you should be seeing right now, the car is back at my apartment. I finally get to laugh about the one car policy. Due to a mistake on the apartment complex side, I do have both of my cars at my apartment now, which is kind of cool, and they shouldn't be towed because, well, I am abiding by their policy in a way that they didn't really intend to allow to happen. They don't really have a policy that prohibits a lessee from having multiple vehicles. They just only will issue you one parking pass. Through one of their mistakes, I ended up with 2 parking passes, and yay. So I get to park both of my cars here, and I'm kind of excited about that. It's the first time that I have parked both of my cars at the apartment, and so for me it was kind of a haha moment. I get to be the evil villain moment, and yeah, so both the cars are here. That is something. I got to get the Impreza out of Nathan's driveway, and I hope that he appreciates that, although I'm sure the extra parking spot that has been taken up or consumed for the last month is something that he's happy to have. I do actually own a third car, and one of the things that I'm going to be doing is to be getting rid of that car here soon. That is a small amount of money, not too much, not ridiculous, but it's enough money that I could almost buy the suspension, all 4 of the suspension for the Outback, for the amount of money that I'm going to have to spend to get the third car fixed up and sold. I don't want the third car. I really just don't. You may have seen it in some of my past videos, but it literally was a car that was at such a cheap price that I couldn't say no to it, and the amount of work that it needed was pretty simple, so I said screw it, I'm gonna go ahead and get it, and I did, and I've been dragging my feet on it because there's been other things to do, but I'm not gonna let that stop me anymore. I want it gone. I really want to free up Nathan's driveway because he has been so kind in letting me consume 2 spots in his driveway, and that's been going on for a while now. 6 months, since one of the cars been there for 6 months, and the Impreza was there for the last 2 months. So the Impreza's not in his driveway anymore. That shouldn't be a problem for him. and he should be okay with that. And then hopefully the other car will disappear in the next month and a half. So with all that said and done, I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. You haven't seen me a whole lot except in some of the videos, in some of the pictures that you will have seen cycling around. I have not put together the presentation yet, so there might be some video that I throw in here, but there's not a whole lot of video for me to show. So that's why it was mostly going to be a video or a picture slideshow and me talking, and I've talked way too long, so I'm going to say goodbye. Have a nice one. Sorry for no video last week. It wasn't a good time for me to release a video, so I didn't. So hopefully there will be another video next Monday. I look forward to seeing you guys then. Bye. There was one other thing that I wanted to add, and that is in this screenshot right here. Just because the car is not running right now and there might be more delays in getting it running does not mean that I'm not continuing some projects. If you pay attention, or if you are looking at the screenshot right now, you will notice that there is some Raspberry Pi magic going on. This is actually directly related to the Impreza, so look forward to some of that coming soon. You can not bother making the comments about why Windows on a Raspberry Pi is a bad idea. It specifically has to be Windows. I am kind of trapped in this regard because the specifics of what I'm using the Raspberry Pi for, which I'm not going to reveal at this time, do require Windows. And not Windows wrapper or any of those other things that I might be able to use. It requires Windows. So sad day is what it is. Windows has to be installed on a Raspberry Pi, and it is being done. It's pretty cool that it's possible to be done. But this possibility and a generous donation from Mr. Bob. He has other usernames, but I did not get permission to use his actual name to thank him. So I'm going to say thank you to Mr. Bob. You do know who you are. I'm going to send you a link to this video just because. So everybody say thank you to Mr. Bob for generously donating a Raspberry Pi to me. I am very thankful, and I'm going to use it for the Impreza. So that is coming in the future. You will see it then, just not yet. So enjoy your preview. Bye.